This meeting to order. Could we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Okay, could I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay, can I get a motion? Got a motion by Commissioner Wincher, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Public Works, public hearing. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order for the public hearing. Description of the issue.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as you recall, in late 2017, you authorized the implementation of the Greater Minnesota Transportation Sales Tax for Morrison County. It began collections in 2018. When you implemented that tax, it required a public hearing for the implementation, and included in that are projects that potentially you would utilize the tax on, because it is specifically designated and must be spent on capital costs for transportation projects. So it's going on, next year will be 5 years, and what we did in the first public hearing is we utilized our 5-year program as the project list that we were going to potentially use the tax on that was collected. And so we've done a lot of projects. Not all of them on the list were funded through the transportation tax. We had federal money that we obtained. We had local road improvement monies, our normal construction funds through their state aid allotments. All those things are built into funding projects that are on this list. But by having this list set up this way, it gives us the greatest flexibility on where we can spend the Greater Minnesota Transportation Tax that we've been collecting. So what we're asking now is to move into the next 5 years. The way the tax was implemented, it is in place until 2027. Then the board will have to reconsider whether you'll continue to collect the tax. But for the next 5 years, as we collect the tax, we want to make sure we have enough projects on our list that we will utilize those funds to implement and construct those projects. This is the list that we have of roadways segments that they're preservation projects. They're roadways that will be reaching 20 years of life, which is basically the timeline when something has to be done with them. And so that's what we are requesting the board to do, adopt this list so that as we move forward and we collect the tax along with the other revenue sources we have for transportation, we will build our 5-year program off of that.
Okay, thank you. All right, the meeting is open for public comment or questions. Is there any public comment or questions on this? Is there any public comments? Is there any public comments? Is there any mailed-in written comments to read?
I didn't get any.
We did not receive any in the department.
Okay, the public comment period will be closed then, and we'll take action on this. Could I get a motion on this?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion by Commissioner
Second.
Lemire, seconded by Commissioner Jelinski. Is there any further discussion?
Just, Mr. Chair, where did this first 5 years go so fast? It's just amazing.
It is.
Any other comments? If not, is this roll call by any chance?
No, it shouldn't be.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I have a second request for action by the board. We're requesting that a traffic investigation speed zone study be conducted on our County State Aid Highway 26 in Little Rock. It's kind of an unusual situation because you have both east and westbound traffic on Arkansas 26 is stopped at Trunk Highway 25. But one complaint that we're receiving from some residents down there is they'll stop westbound at 25 and then they can cross 25 and they can actually get up to 55 miles an hour in that small segment, and there is no zone, there is no speed zone in there, even though it's probably a qualifying area with the number of homes and how close they are, all the things that they would look at. So our request is that you would authorize the resolution. MnDOT will do the investigation, and they will determine what the safe and reasonable speed through that area is.
Could I get a motion on that?
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Wincher, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Robin, you wanna? We have a guest with us also today, as we would like to discuss the disc golf course out at Belle Prairie Park and the improvements to that disc golf course, which is a part of our master plan. The department's been working with two local individuals, Al Winsberger and Robin Pullman, who have provided their expertise in making a recommendation to the board on what we should do for our improvements out at Belle Prairie Park based on our master plan and what currently exists out there. We've submitted a layout to that currently established disc golf course. And I also believe that Al's email was included into the, did that get in?
It did.
Yeah.
Right there.
So Al also provided some input on his belief on what we should do and what kind of improvements could be made out at the course. I think that some of the things that Robin could address that we've included in here are, one of the things is that we'd like to concrete the tee boxes. And that is a recommendation from our users, and maybe you can explain why that should be done.
Yeah, I think the best way to explain that is just a safety issue. The current tee boxes that are out there are sand, gravel mixture, and, well, this year they haven't gotten rutted as much because of the rain, but anytime that those get a little bit dug up or rutted, they don't fill in very well, and then it becomes, for older people like myself, then it becomes a little bit dangerous because I don't need to roll an ankle or something like that out there. So, so by creating the concrete tee pads, would make it a much safer, much more appealing course to play too for disc golfers. I know I play in a league up in Brainerd, and there's guys up there that have said that they would come down and play Belle Prairie more often if there was concrete tee pads and better baskets. So that's one of the things that when I talked to Steve, I said the first thing we could do to make it better is to do those two things, and then looking at expansion also would certainly improve the playability or the appeal of the course out there.
And so the effort is to go from 9 to 12. We want 12 quality holes at Belle Prairie. We're not trying to get 18 holes because the area that we have available for the expansion really doesn't accommodate that many. And so after discussing that quite a bit, that was the approach that was believed to be the best approach, is to have 12 good quality holes, baskets, and make these improvements. There are some other ways that you can make challenging holes or that we would also pursue, and maybe you could talk a little bit about that, Robin.
Yeah, I think with the area that's there, we're somewhat limited to what we can do and the work that it would take to get it playable. So being a little bit limited in that area, then a 12-hole, bless you, a 12-hole course is certainly, there's nothing wrong with a 12-hole. And in the future, there may be room to expand it up to 15, but I think to have a good solid 12 is a good start. We looked at some safety issues there too, as far as you don't want to have holes that are too close together, because it hurts to get hit by one of those flying discs. So trying to keep everything separated enough where that, thinking safety too would be pretty important, which is what we did, and the course over at Le Bourget Park here in town as well, thinking safety. So, anything else I can ask or answer any questions that you have?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Jelinski.
So we go from a 9 to a 12 to an 18, and I get it. I've never heard of a 12, but that's okay. That's fine.
Yep.
Is a 12 at all appealing, much more appealing than a 9? I mean, it's not an 18. So
Right.
is a 12 hole or a basket?
Yep, they're holes, yeah. I think so, especially if they're good quality, and the layout that we came up with here, kind of contrary to what it currently is, where number 12 would end, you'd be pretty close to number 1,
Okay.
so it makes it a little bit more convenient to play a couple rounds. Currently, where number 9 ends, it's a pretty long hike to get from number 9 back to number 1.
Okay.
So that's not quite as appealing, I guess. But so this would make that an easy track to play 2 rounds. And I saw Sartell has a 12-hole course. There's another community around here that has a 12-hole. I can't think of it right now, but so that's that's not a restricting or a limiting factor.
Okay.
Camp Ripley, that's the other one. Camp Ripley
Okay.
had a 12-hole course, and they just expanded it to 18. But yeah, I don't think there's anything.
So by going through everything that we're talking about this morning, does it take our course at Belle Prairie more from a beginner's course, if you will? And I'm not a disc golfer, so I'm just
Right,
talking out loud.
Yeah.
More from a beginner's course to a moderate course?
Yeah,
Would you
yeah,
say?
I would say. Yeah, we're adding some length and definitely some difficulty on some of the holes.
Okay,
I would consider the course at Le Bourget more of a beginner to intermediate, and I would say right now, Belle Prairie's a little more challenging than that one is
Okay.
currently.
Okay.
And this would take it up a little bit from there.
Okay.
So beginners will still be able to play it, but there's gonna be more challenge there.
Sure.
And we ran into some players out there the one day that I was out with Chuck and Lance, who did the artwork here. And that was one of their comments. We'd like to see some longer holes. So we've got a couple in here that are a little bit longer. We pushed them out a little bit farther, so.
excellent. Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, thank you.
Commissioner Richard.
Thank you. And again, I'm all for getting the cement and that sort, but would it be more difficult to expand once you cement everything in? So let's say we do decide to upgrade to a 15 or an 18. I'm assuming the long line is the tee box on there, right?
Yep,
Those
the
would be
cemented,
And then
yep.
you're gonna cement the pole in or whatever they
Yep.
call it.
Yep.
So again, if you'd ever have to move something, I guess that would be my only.
Right. I would think, and when we talked last week, the only direction I think in the future that might be able to be expanded would be to go to the north. If you can see on that map where number 11 is, if you went north there a little bit, we can't get too far over to the right, or to the east, I guess it would be. That would be into the prairie grass area. But there might be room there to expand to there might be room for 3. We'd have to take a look at that and see if that would be ever feasible, and that would be something we could even look at now. But again, to try to fit 3 in there might be too challenging to keep everything safe and keep enough space for each hole. But that's something that we can take a look at. I haven't been out there actually since we talked last week, so that would be something that we certainly could take a look at.
And that'd be something I would be for. I mean, if you're gonna go 12, stick to that, find and see if you can find the other 3 holes.
Yep.
Make it a 15.
Yep.
Like I say, that's your job.
There is some room there. I'm just not sure if there's enough room to go down and then you'd have to come back. That would be the challenge part there, yeah.
It's kind of a balancing act because we're trying to preserve some of the natural and native areas, and in that area is some of the more pristine, I guess, area as far as the natives go, and there are some rare species of plants in that area, from previous work that the DNR has done. It's an area of the park that has never been, it's never been killed off and reseeded. Some of that native prairie has been killed off and it's been reseeded with seed from other areas. But this area would be what existed, I guess, as far back as we can go. And so that's why we've tried to preserve that. At the same time, this area has become the rec area, the recreational area. And so you're kind of balancing those two.
Right. The immediate area in there by that number 11 is a lot of the sumac, I think.
There's some
Yeah,
sumac in that
that would
area
be,
that's expanding in there, yeah.
Yeah, that would be taken out. But there may be room to do the 15 there. We'd have to take a look at that just to see how much space without disrupting the native area there.
And Mr. Chair, again, I'd say I'm for this, but maybe this to save some time, we put it to 15 baskets, and if they ever decide next year, whatever, then they'd be able to expand those through. Again,
Right.
That would-
That wouldn't be too difficult.
That'd be my motion that I would approve.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Robin, you mentioned earlier about quality of baskets, raising that. Is there a lot of difference in baskets?
Yeah, there is. Yeah. I wish I had some to show you. The baskets that are currently in there were there a long time ago when when the park first opened. And so I guess you could call it the technology, but the type of baskets made now are much better. To give you an example, the ones that are out there now, there's many times where I've thrown a putt and my disc has gone completely through across to the other side of the basket. Whereas baskets now have more chains and heavier chains, so that doesn't happen. It's pretty rare for it to happen now. And there's a few different styles of baskets now, but you can get some pretty good quality baskets now that are much better, a significant upgrade than to what's there right now.
Okay, anybody else have anything? I have to ask Randy, did you make a motion on,
Well, I guess we're requesting authorization, so I'm assuming that's, you'd ask for a motion on that one, correct?
right, but you had mentioned,
I just said disc golf course to 15 baskets. Again, I just thought rather than leave it at 12, then they have to come back again.
Right.
It seems that maybe 15 would be the more feasible way to go. And then let them speed and move forward. Maybe it's not this year, next year, but then it would be.
It would add a little bit expense, and I don't know what the budget is for it, to add 3 more baskets and 3 more tee pads
Well,
would be
again,
a little
I'm
bit.
just saying, I mean, we'd leave it.
Just the comment is that we did look at 15.
Okay,
And the reason we scaled it back down to 12 was because we would need to expand into that. If you knowingly want us to do that and go into that area, then that's probably what we would have to do. But it was looked at on how 15 could be fit in here, and we scaled it back to 12 so that we didn't disturb as much of that area as we would have to if we go to 15. So if you want us to go to 15, we
well, I'm not
can.
asking you to go to 15, I just, obviously you did your homework, Steve, on that, so maybe I'm sticking to them, so let's just leave it at the 12 and move forward.
I think when you come to ordering, I think ordering 15 might not be a bad idea, just to prevent, with the vandalism or something that could happen. I know that's happened at least once out there where someone's come and cut one out. Then you'd have a backup plan that way.
would your motion be appropriate then to go up to 15? That you could be at 12 and go up to 15?
Okay.
Would you be okay with that, Randy?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we can take a look at that.
Yeah, we can see if we can maybe do both.
Because
Maybe
I know
we'll
I'd
look
probably
again.
go out there if there'd be 15.
With a wall behind each one? Yeah. So what that's saying is we go with the 12, and then if they can do more, then you do. If not, at some point,
Right.
the motion's already been made. So we have a motion by Commissioner.
I'll second it.
We got a second by Commissioner Jelinski. Is there any further discussion? Okay, this is a roll call. Commissioner Lemire?
Aye.
Commissioner Winchard?
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski?
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine?
Aye.
And aye. Motion carries.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Robin,
Mr.
for
Chairman,
your
members
work.
of the board, and thank you, Robin and Al. They really put a lot of effort into this volunteer work for us, so we really appreciate that.
Mr. Chair, Stephen, I should have asked this earlier, and I realize that we're looking in the neighborhood of $10,000. Where does that $10,000 come from? And I should have asked that during discussion, and I'm sorry.
That will come through the park and trail budget. We anticipate that we will utilize our own forces for quite a bit of the labor work.
Okay. Excellent, thank you very much.
One last question too. Do you rent, do you, like, say, if I'd wanna bring myself and the grandkids out, what do you do? Bring your own, or is there someplace to rent out?
Yeah, you have to bring your own,
Okay,
that's the
all right.
sad, yeah.
Just ask the que-
Or if you go through the weeds, you might find
Yeah,
some.
poison-
There's, yeah, there,
Cheryl
yeah,
sent me
I've,
through the
yeah,
poison ivy, I'm
yeah.
sure.
I've got a couple of them that have made it down to New Orleans probably, but,
Oh, okay.
The floaters.
yeah.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next we will have Crook Neck Lid report. Dan, welcome.
Good morning.
Morning, Dan.
Good morning, Dan.
Morning.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is just a quick review of last year, everything that we've accomplished since then. And I'll point out that the left bay on the left side of your slides, because you have them all in front of you also, that's the west bay. And so coming out, you see the black line that's circled around there? That would be the spring survey, and that was curly leaf this year. And so we did about 12 acres on the spring survey, which was up from last year. Last year we did 0, and that was because we didn't have enough density in any of that zone. Now, we think that going back a year ago, we had early ice in, and so that could have been a contributing factor. This past year, the West Bay froze in early on, the whole lake froze in, and then the main part of the lake thawed out due to the wind. And we had people fishing in the West Bay and then casting into the main lake all the way up to just before Christmas, and then it froze in, and we suspect that that may be why the curly leaf had an opportunity to keep growing. Got an early start on it. And so we treated about 12 acres, 11.9, and so a lot of curly leaf. And then if you go just down below that point, you'll see it kind of looks like the fingers that go down there. That's where we have Eurasian water milfoil. And so last fall, we did treat upwards to almost 2 acres down in that area. That's the only location that we have the milfoil. And so we treated that 2 years consecutive. We think we have it under control. When we did the summer survey, which was after this summer, we haven't identified any so far this year. But normally we pick that up in the fall. And so we still have a pending survey. You'll notice there's a big green dot right there in the middle. In the summer survey, we found more curly leaf. So we know next year we're going to have additional curly leaf. And then if you go into the West Bay, which would be on your left side, there's 2 dots in the West Bay. That's the first time we found any curly leaf in the West Bay in 10 years. So it's spread there. We also found it on the top of the West Bay, the north side, and it's way over in the East Bay. So we're finding more curly leaf. We don't know next year whether it'll be concentration high enough to treat, just don't know. So we'll have to wait and see. And then you'll notice that up on the very top, we have a star there, which I thought was going to just be a sentinel point for the north, which turned out to be another invasive weed that we never knew that we had in the lake. And so, and then this year we have 2 pending surveys still coming up. The late summer one, which usually identifies the Eurasian water milfoil. And then also we have a zebra mussel one where they're going to do diving and look for it. And it's going to be located right around the lake access. And they're going after zebra mussels because we can't find any in the lake. But they were found 3 years ago, but we have no evidence since then, with the exception that the water clarity keeps going up. And so they're there, we think, but we can't find them. And so the DNR is going to come out and dive, and then we're going to see if we can locate them that way. And that's how they found them last year in Alex, was with a dive survey. And so if you go to the next one, this is what, everybody has these things, yellow iris. I didn't know they were invasive. DNR considers these an invasive species. If you go online, you'll see that they start in Maine, and they work their way to the west. Everybody buys, you can buy these. They're a regulated invasive survey, so you can buy them, you can sell them, you can transport them, do anything you want with them, but you can't put them in water. And so that makes them invasive. They grow. It's a prolific root structure. A lot of people like to put them along their shoreline because it keeps them from washing out. And so we've got them on our lake. There's a number of spaces where you can see them, particularly on that north shore. And they were planted there years ago, kind of disappeared when the water came up. But now the water came down, they've grown like mad. And so it's kind of like cattails. You can't get rid of them once you have them. The only way to control them is to put a barrier around them and try to keep them in that location. Very difficult to get rid of them unless you try to spray them and then you wreak havoc by using chemicals on them.
Kind of looks like an iris.
They're yellow iris. They're identical to an iris.
Okay,
You can't tell them apart.
okay.
And there's also a purple variety now that's out there. And so they're an iris. And so they're just one of those. And they're probably on every lake around here because you can buy them. Okay, Deb, next slide. Treasury report, this is a recap. We feel very healthy right now. 3 years ago I came before you, we were real worried because we had curly leaf. We had a lot of curly leaf, but it was expensive to treat. DNR allowed us to use Diquat, which was a different herbicide, very inexpensive, but we didn't know if they would allow us to use it again. This year they allowed us to use it, so it's very inexpensive to use. So we feel healthy right now, budget-wise. We can sustain a high cost for a year and then recover by having a levy that we could make up for it. So right now, we're feeling pretty good. We do have we put estimated down here because we do feel we're probably going to have some treatment costs with Eurasian water milfoil potentially this fall yet. And so we just don't know. And the levy, there is a reconciliation, I guess, sometime later in the fall, my treasurer tells me, and it all gets squared up sometime around October, November, December. And so, but this is going to be very close to what we're going to have. We anticipate we'll have somewhere around 8,200 or 82,000 at the end of the year. Okay, next slide. This is the same, and now these are one of the ones that I'll be asking you to approve at the end by motion. But this is the same performance plan that I brought before you for the last, probably 5 years. We want to continue to survey the lake. If we identify anything, we're going to treat it. We monitor and do a water quality studies. The lake is healthy. It continues to have trending that improves when we look at the chlorophyll and the phosphorus and the Secchi dish for clarity. It's all improving. I will tell you, though, that if we find zebra mussels, the studies go out the window because there's a caveat to that. If there's zebra mussels, studies mean nothing at that point in time. So whether we'll continue to do those or not, we'll have to wait to see. And then we manage to quit effective as we can. There is one thing we're finding on the water quality studies. We have some individuals on the lake that own, I guess I would call them the wake rider boats. I don't know if that's the right term for them, where you surf right behind the boat. And so yesterday I was collecting water samples on Saturday or on Sunday, and so we've been seeing readings in 14, 15 feet down. I could only see 7 to 8 feet down. And so, and they went through that area just before that. And so they can really stir up the water. And also we have a lot of celery weed, which is a normal invasive or normal weed that we have in the lake. But it's a fragile one. It always, when it matures, it reaches the top, and then they let loose, and then the whole weed just floats around. Well, when they come through, they just break it all loose, and they float then. And so the water quality is about half of what I could normally see when they come through, but they have the right to use the lake. Okay, so this is our performance. Now the budget, this year, what we decided to do is just looking at them, and at the meeting we approved this one. The surveys we bumped up just slightly because we know each year they go up a little bit in cost. The weed treatment, I looked at, if I had to use Aquathol K, which is a more expensive treatment for curly leaf pondweed, I looked at 2 years and I averaged the cost of what that would have been. And then I added on 2 years for Eurasian water milfoil and I averaged it, came out to $24,200. So we just put down $24,000. Insurance just keeps ticking up a little bit each year. Our admin costs, we ticked it up slightly. And the same thing with water quality. And so we came up with $31,375. Now our levies, we don't intend to raise the levy to cover that this year. And so operational costs, we have that. We know we don't feel we're going to come in at that high, but that's the worst case scenario. And so we need to have it approved because otherwise we're limited on spending the money. The legal reserve, we throw it in there at 15,000 because we just never know if we're gonna have to have legal counsel for anything. And so our total budget that was approved at the meeting was 46,375. And again, this is one of the things that I'll be asking at the end for your approval on. Next slide. This was the annual levy. Last year, we collected $70 from everybody. This year, we proposed to go down to 60. This is what was the Board of Directors approved at the meeting, the annual meeting. And we looked at such things as curly leaf unknowns. We got more of it spreading around Eurasian water milfoil. So we got some unknowns there. Can we use diquat? Can we use the other herbicide, which is more expensive? We do have a track record now of using diquat with them, but the water level is going down. So that was the big selling feature on being able to use the diquat. Partnership grants, been lucky, been very fortunate to receive those from you guys. And our financial, we're looking pretty good at this time. And so whether it's authorized or not, this is how we run it. We run our meeting, and then the board sets it, but we open it up for anybody that's present at our meeting. We ask for all their input, and we received it all. Fund the 40,000, collect enough money for that, all the way down to just kind of keep it where it's at, $70 to $80, and so we don't get this big yo-yo from year to year. And so we just kept it at 60, and that's kind of our average over the years, with the one big bump up 2 years ago to get us to where we could go. At least we can get through 2 years if we have high costs, and that was our goal. And so we went ahead and approved as a board $60 after receiving their comments at the meeting. And next slide. This is the great unknown too for next year, water levels. It's drastically going down. I can tell you as of yesterday, you can draw that line that's going down, one more square down, because we're now at down to 1277.25. And so it's dropped down another square drastically. It's going down faster than anybody would have ever suspected it's going down. It would go down. To give you an idea, if you draw way back to 2015, just before that, that first bump up, that was the first time we ever asked for the sheriffs to come out and do a no-wake zone. And everybody kind of adapted to that, wrap around the lake and so forth. And then we had many years in there where I didn't get any complaints from people complaining to me, hey, what are we going to do about this action on the lake? Because everybody's kind of used to it. And everybody was using the lake full use. And then we got the big 2019 jump up. And it just, then we were in flood conditions again. And it was hitting cabins. Now we're back down to just about where we were at that point in time. Nobody's complaining. I'm getting complaints about weeds. Too many weeds in the lake. And so what it's going to do next year, I don't have any idea. We're going to have more curly leaf. We're going to have major weed problems, I suspect, in the bay, the West Bay. We used to have to run a big harvester, and they just cut the weeds off so we can get in and out of the bay. I think we're going to be back to that scenario unless we start getting some rain, because it's drastically going down. What used to be called the Blue Line Trench, which went from 203 to 3, and it drained that whole area that cleaned out last year. We used to get water that would flow in the spring, would come into Crook Neck Lake. We didn't get any in this spring. That was first time, and used to be all the old timers would say, if it flowed in until July meeting, we're good this year. No water came in this year, but we're gonna have to monitor that fairly close. But this is, we were hoping it would go down slower so we could study the impact on the weeds and which one are gonna grow up and are they gonna be natives, invasives. It's going down quick. And so that's an unknown there. And what's
Dana Adam
We have a
is
joint.
now joining.
So we just don't know next year on that one. So at this point in time, I believe from last year's meeting, because we were almost left without having any approval on it, I think I need to ask you to approve our performance work plan, the budget, and the levy.
Can I
Am I
get a
correct, Deb, on that?
Yes.
Okay, because last year, I just asked for the levy.
I'll make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair, on all three.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by Commissioner Jelinski. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to say this is one of the nicest detailed reports that we received from all the lids, and we appreciate that. And that it's good to see that you're doing surveys, because when we have that AIS grant to give out, in order to receive funding for treatment, you need to have a survey. So please include your survey in that when you apply for that grant.
Will do.
Thank you. Okay, this is a roll call vote. Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson, aye. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye,
Motion carries. Thank you
Thanks,
very
Dan.
much.
Okay, thank you.
appreciate it.
Have a good day now.
Thank you.
Okay, next, extension report.
I think we have someone online.
Good morning.
Dana is online
Dana's online.
or via audio.
It says we're supposed to.
All right, we also have Becky here, Dana, so I don't know if you want to start maybe and talk to us about what you want to speak to us about?
Of course. So it's been a little bit of time since I've been able to share what I've been doing with you. I know that I send out my monthly county extension committee reports, and so you're able to kind of see what I'm working on with extension. So for the past month, we've been really, really busy with
Trying to get it to the boardroom, but hold on a minute. Clearly, that's a bad idea. Now, why isn't it changing?
July. We had the Central Dairy Tour at Wrightsma Dairy in Stearns County, and we had about 120 people. It was a very engaging discussion, presentation by the family, good engagement on what a different robot system looks like. So typically it's Lely robotic systems, and this is De La Val. So lots of really good conversation, and I look at it as like fellowship. This past week, we held a 2 tours in Stearns and Benton County talking about small grains and drought. And I worked with Jim Sulphur, who's the regional specialist, to talk about how to feed drought-stressed corn silage to dairy animals. So what you should be looking for, and I know that Nathan Druitt, who is a coordinator for that event in Melrose and that event in Foley, he was talking about pricing corn silage, and we had about, at those 2 events, we had about 20 people at each, and that's because a lot of our producers, we found out, were already starting to chop corn silage. So we had good attendance, but we expected more just because the topic was so relevant. And it was perfectly timed. It's just like the drought threw off the entire schedule that we typically operate under. So good attendance, really good discussions with producers about what they're facing, and how to kind of like adjust their plan and price corn silage so that it's appropriate, and communicating with the person that you're buying from, and just like really relevant topics. Because we wanted to make it, we had planned on making it small grains focused, and instead we made it drought focused, which caused us to pivot. Good engagement. On Wednesday last week, I was asked to speak at a prescribed grazing field day at an organic dairy in Albany. We had about 35 people at that event, and I did a presentation on breeds and management of grazing systems, and also transferring, like working with that producer to understand how he navigated transitioning to organic. So also good conversations. Neil chatting, Nathan presented at that as well. So it really got our faces back out there in front of, in this case, a new, different audience. Nathan was talking about managing pasture and taking correct grass species in order to optimize that grazing window that we have during the growing season. And I was talking about breeds and management. What else? Oh, in the past, the county fairs. I was very, very lucky to be at all the fairs. I reached out to all of our 4-H educators at Stearns, Benton, and Morrison, and I was at the dairy show in Stearns County, helping with livestock trucking in Stearns County. Benton County, I was one of the premier showmanship judges. I was judging beef, really good conversations with the kids. Also a chance to be right before the auction, which is a big event. So people were able to see me. I was introduced. We got to say thank you to the Farm Family of the Year. And in Morrison, I helped with livestock check-in as well as running the dairy show. Also good opportunity to kind of see some of the producers that I've seen at their farms in a different atmosphere. So I was helping with lineup of those kids before they entered the ring. And really, this past summer, I got a chance to be out there and in front of people and then see them at the county fair and kind of like think those names and the farms and the families all together in my brain, which has been great. With beef programming, I worked with the beef team to offer 3 separate series. So there was a spring calving series. There was the summer series where I did a presentation in both those. The summer beef series via Zoom was, I spoke about the hot complex and roundworm parasites, which really gave me a chance to connect with the veterinarian on campus and put together a good presentation. And then we had this past drought presentation via Zoom, where I think we had about 60 people at all of those events. So 60 for the dairy, actually it was 85 for the, I'm sorry, not dairy, the spring calving, about 40 to 60 at the summer beef series, and about 45 at the drought Zoom series. So, like, lots of impact from those conversations. We were able to collect data and kind of find out where people were from, why were they there, did they learn things, which, you have, like, the question, did you learn something that you're using your farm? And, like, 4 to 5, yes. And then I also wanted to mention and to like wrap up my part of your meeting. I wanted to invite you to September 1st. The Mississippi Valley Cattlemen are hosting their annual meeting where Clint Catherine will be showing us around his beef facilities in Morrison. And he has a really nice setup for feeding, cow-calf operation, as well as his beef handling facilities. And I have a speaker from Colorado, which is talking about breeding and kind of diversifying your herd and getting the genetics you want. So it promises to be really a big event because people are excited to be in person and kind of just that. I mean, we all miss being in person and the educational component, as well as knowing the network that you have. The UMN Beef team plans to be there, so we should about like 4 or 5 representatives from around the state in the beef team to kind of just like keep our face in people's presence. At this point, I'd love to take questions.
Anybody?
Does anybody have any questions?
Could she repeat when that Clint Catherine Day is?
What day is that Clint Catherine thing?
It's September 1st from 6:30 to 9:30. If anyone is interested, I can send you the press release so that hopefully we'll be able to be face to face and I can see you in person. It'll be a fun event.
Yeah, if you want to send that to Tabitha, she can get it out to those interested. How's that?
I can definitely send it to Tabitha.
Perfect. Anything else?
Did anybody got anything else? If not, we thank you very much.
Thank you.
Then
Great, thank you. You have a good day.
You too.
we'll move on to Becky.
Good morning. There might have been a little confusion
Dana,
with
Adam.
who exactly was going to do the board report, but I'm happy if you will allow me a few minutes of your time. I did bring the county fair report and of course the regular board report. If you had any questions on that, I'd be more than willing to take them. But I just wanted to highlight a few things during our county fair, and Dana alluded to the fact that she was there to help with a few things, and that was great as well. She also brought her intern that I had to do a couple things for me too, so that was great. We did have static judging on Tuesday, the week of the fair, and projects were up from 2 years ago. Didn't use last year's numbers because those were a little different, but comparing to 2 years ago, it was really good. Our horse show moved to Wednesday this year, which is the day before the fair opens, but it also helps those youth to kind of avoid some of the conflicts with other shows that they want to be a part of during the rest of the week. And so we haven't done a full evaluation yet, but from what I heard, it seemed to go very well having it on a different day, and everyone adjusted real well. Of course, Thursday, the livestock arrive, and we did have our poultry and rabbit shows. The poultry show was bursting with birds. Also some new birds this year. We had some pigeons. Haven't seen those at the fair for quite some time, at least not in a 4-H cage. And so we did have to move our rabbit show to the other end of the building so we could start that on time. But great turnout for that as well. Friday morning, we had our dairy goat show. Lots of entries there. We moved into the general livestock show in the evening. That went well into the evening with a lot of entries there. Also had a little alpaca show on Friday, something new again. It's been several years since we had any llamas or alpacas at the fair. Fun little creatures, great to watch. We put them in the horse barn so other people could enjoy them as well. Our rate of gain contest, the winners were announced during our shows, and they had a chair, camp chair there that was embroidered as the winner, and they're holding, which is a little hard to see in the pictures, but a large kind of fake check. They received some monetary prizes, and then, of course, the real checks come out afterwards. Saturday morning was our dairy cattle show, and again, Dana was helping out with that. We also had on Saturday our blue ribbon auction. That was highly successful. 2 years ago, we had 12 kids that were involved. This year we had 29. And we brought in just over $26,000 for youth, and that equates to 20% for the Morrison County 4-H program, which was just a little over $5,000. And so that really becomes quite the opportunity for youth as well as the 4-H program to expand income to be able to give out more scholarships and provide more opportunities to the youth of the entire program. So it does not just affect those 29 youth, it affects everyone. Also had our premier showmanship event. And then after the fair was over, we're moving right into State Fair, which of course starts on Thursday of this week. Our youth are traveling down tomorrow already to get their animals set up. The non-livestock projects I took down to the State Fair yesterday, and so those are getting set up as well. We're also doing registrations right now for the Northeast Livestock Show. State Horse Show has been completed, their registrations, and State Dog Show registrations have been completed. And so we're well into state events month is usually what September brings for the Extension Office, and new enrollments. And so we're also happily welcoming new families are contacting me about joining 4-H. So excitement going on all the way around. I hope you all got out to the county fair for a little bit of time. It was fantastic. I know there were many times that the fair seemed to be bursting at its seams with people and parking and food running low at the end of the fair. All exciting things for the fair and the 4-H program.
Anybody got any questions for Becky?
Mr. Chair, it's quite a problem to have.
Yes, it is.
Where am I going to park? And we're running out of hamburgers. It's honest to goodness, the Morrison County Fair, you have to open up your eyes, you have to go to the fair, you have to see what it is without saying, yuck, that's nothing. Truly, I can only echo what you said. Bursting at the seams, walk into that chicken coop or poultry barn, and see what Mr. Zumberg has done there.
Yes.
And we're just talking just with that one area.
Yes.
From what it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, to what it is today, speaks just absolute volumes, and it speaks to the people that are attending the Morrison County Fair. So,
Absolutely.
4-H, Becky, yourself, thank you for everything that you guys have done. So it shows a lot.
Winter, did you have a comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Becky, and maybe you don't have an answer for this. Anyway, I just am thrilled of the numbers of the exhibits, the general exhibits that you're showing here, and the livestock exhibits. What do you think is the reason for this? Is it because we have more 4-H members? People want to get out more after this COVID thing? Or, I mean, what do you think the reason was?
I feel it's probably a combination of everything. 4-H numbers are pretty steady as far
Right.
as enrollment goes. But I think people are just excited to be out at a fair again. We had a limited access last year with our achievement days and, not the participation that we would normally have at a county fair. I just think people were excited to get out there and public coming to see, 4-Hers wanting to show. It just kind of all wrapped together to be a perfect combination.
Like Commissioner Jelinski, everybody wanted to go to the chicken coop.
I'll have to ask Dave if that new name is going on the outside of the building.
There you go.
Anybody got any other questions? If not, Becky, we thank you and
Thank you very much, and I will see you guys next month for a little breakfast with the commissioners. T-shirts are being ordered today.
Outstanding.
You
Thank
got,
you.
you got my email, right? I just sent it to you.
Perfect.
All right,
yes.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Becky.
thank you. Next, social service report. Welcome,
Morning, Mr.
Brad.
Chair, Commissioners.
Melanie?
Morning, Brad.
So I did ask Melanie to come to present this contract because she has worked very hard on this project, and I'll have her talk a little bit about it and then get approval for the contract.
And I think both contracts are here, is that correct? Or
Just one, the
just
one.
the coordinator, okay.
Yep.
Good morning, Mr.
Morning,
Chair,
Melanie.
members of the board. This is for the Collaborative Intensive Bridging Services Project that we wrote a grant for from Sourcewell Impact Funds to cover the cost of this grant. Morrison County's taken kind of the lead in this project in Region 5 with the other children's mental health supervisors and counties. So looking to be the fiscal host to pass through the money to pay for this coordinator. The coordinator position, as we have learned through our administrative training in the project, is really essential to getting the project off on a good start and on be able to track our data well in Region 5 to see if, in fact, the collaborative intensive bridging services is working in our Region 5. Collaborative intensive bridging services is really an intensive in-home therapeutic program, relies heavily on family therapists. The family therapist is kind of the team lead and works with other agencies and the family. The family is the client, not the child with a severe emotional disturbance, because that recognizes that the family is a part of the treatment plan and a part of what, and also needing support. And all those factors are essential to having success for the child to stay in the home. Dakota County has been using this model for over 10 years and has had excellent results with reducing the out-of-home placement need for children. We know that residential treatment for children takes them out of their community and away from their home. It causes additional trauma. And yes, it is needed, but sometimes it's not the best option for some kids. And this is to serve those kids where they could avoid a long-term residential placement and therefore be able to practice their skills that they're learning in the community and the family, which is lacking in a residential treatment where they come back and it's a new environment, and sometimes, well, there's pretty good data that suggests that a lot of residential treatment programs do not end in success, so that kids go back into placement. So the coordinator is an essential part of this in order to keep our data on track and to make sure that we recruit the right families and make sure that Region 5 is working together with county partners and our agency partners of therapists and placement facilities if those are needed.
Okay, could I get a motion on that?
So move, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Jelinski. Is there any further discussion? I'd just like to thank you for going for this grant and stuff and doing this with the other. I know you guys have been pretty successful the last few years on programs and stuff, and you've done a wonderful job with it, so thank you very much.
And again, Melanie gets a lot of credit for this grant application and pulling the supervisors together in Region 5, so thanks to Melanie, because this is beneficial for our families and our kids to try and keep them in the community and keep them with their families.
Thank you. Okay, we
Thank you.
have, any other questions? If not, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Melanie.
All right, I have a public health item, and that is to approve a one-day temporary license for Pirates softball to hold an event on September 11th at Genola Field.
We got a motion by Commissioner Wincher, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion? None. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
And if I could just give a brief update on COVID, we have a case rate today of about 23.8 over the last 14 days, so our numbers continue to tick up a bit. We've had some larger days where folks have tested positive and are on our line list. We are having a conversation about the third dose that is going to be approved and whether or not we would do that, where for those individuals that came through our county immunization sites. Emily's gonna talk with the hospital, the pharmacies, and see if we can't coordinate an approach, because there was some active efforts done by the hospital to go to schools, pharmacies to go into long-term care facilities, and so if everybody has to get a third dose, is there still gonna be that ability for those partners to do those individuals? So before we decide if we're gonna do them here, we wanna see what the other partners are gonna be doing. So a little work to be done on that third dose.
Brad, with the numbers being up, vaccinated, unvaccinated people, do you know those numbers like that?
We had we had a meeting with the schools yesterday, and currently in our case list, there are about a quarter of them are breakthrough cases, which means that they have either had one vaccination or fully vaccinated. So it's a little bit high, but nobody in the hospital is currently unvaccinated. So that's always a good sign, so.
I think you just said that opposite.
Yeah,
Who's
nobody's
currently
been vaccinated. Or-
Nobody has been vaccinated who is in the hospital,
Okay, sounds good.
so.
And Brad, Mr. Chair, again, for the TV land out there, when you say up 23.8, do we have that, can we put that in numbers? Like, is there 5 people or 10 people? Do you have that, and is there any deaths involved? I'm assuming there isn't, otherwise you'd be bringing that up.
It's been a while since we've had a Morrison County resident who's passed away from COVID. We have 78 individuals who have tested positive over the last 14 days, which is our case rate. It's still lower than we were up close to 100 sometime last fall. And so it is still lower than it was, but it is ticking up. And with school in session, of course, that is a worry. But hoping that we'll see, they've said that it's gonna spike in a little bit and go down. I'm not a data analyst, so I don't understand where they're making those determinations, but hopefully that data is correct. We'll continue to communicate with the schools and support them however we can as they are in session. Currently, the plan is for them all to be in session, in person, full-time, the day after Labor Day, so.
And do you have a numbers, like from under 18 or over 18, or the 78, or do you not?
Well, if you give me just a couple of
All right.
moments, I can tell you.
Brad knows everything.
Oh,
No.
I'm sure you'll find out. He's got it, though.
So 0 to 18-year-olds, we are at 16. And at those 65 and older, we are at about 11. So of those 78, if you subtract those two, the rest are 19 to 64.
Okay, thank you for that information.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Jelinski.
Brad, I have just a quick question for you, and I know the answer, but I just want to hear it from you, is that Public Health had several vaccine clinics. Was there anyone ever that administered a shot to anyone that would have told that person, now you have your shot, you will never get COVID?
No. No, that
Is
wouldn't be ever an accurate
Is
statement.
there anything that says if you get a shot, there's a guarantee you're never going to get COVID?
No.
That's all I would need to hear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that's all I have. Thanks, have a good day.
Next, Land Services. I guess that's right, yeah. Welcome, Amy.
Good morning, Miss Amy.
Okay, so I am circling back from our planning session last week regarding the county surveyor contract with Community Land Solutions. I did circle back then with Scott Marlin, and as we figured, you know, he wants a longer term contract, and so he did come back with a 1%, very modest annual increase over a 4-year contract period. And so that is what I had emailed out to you late last week, and then that is what you'll find in your board packet for consideration and hopefully approval today.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Lemire.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Jelinski. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to say we're lucky to have him.
Yes.
He's thorough and he gets stuff done, and Amy and all the other people that use him are appreciative of the fact that they have someone to go to now, and it was a mess before.
Yeah, thank you.
Well,
Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, we have to remember that it's our duty. We have to have a county surveyor. It's part of the game. So, and I agree with Commissioner Lemire. I don't know that we could, there's plenty of them out there, I'm sure, but we have a gem, I believe.
Anything else? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, if I may, I do have one more thing that I'd like to run by all of you. Unfortunately for the Land Services Department, but fortunately for the Public Works Department and the rest of, and for Morrison County, my shoreland specialist has accepted a new position over at the Public Works Department. And so I am wanting to advertise to replace that position, if that's okay with the board.
I have no problem with it, Mr. Chair.
I have no issues with it at all.
Okay. All right, thank you.
thank
So
you.
I'll get going on that.
You wanna just make a motion and approve that if you,
I'll move on it.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner
Second.
Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion?
That position, there's grant funding that is used to pay for that position,
Yes,
correct?
the buffer funding and, excuse me, the buffer funding and the aquatic invasive species funding together funds that position. It would continue to do that.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
it's the contract.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Amy.
Okay, anybody need a break? Are we all okay yet?
It's up to Jeff.
Break or you want to keep moving?
Why wouldn't we take a
Yeah, why
break?
wouldn't
A 5-minute break.
I love when Jeff.
Next time I won't.
Did we not have a sheriff's report?
Why wouldn't we?
All right. Okay. Let's see here what I get to throw away.
Jelinski, I guess it's up to you. We'll resume this meeting. Auditors report.
Good morning.
Welcome.
On the agenda today, I have some gambling requests for you. So the first request is approval for the exempt permit resolution for Bethany Lutheran Church of Ramey to hold a bingo on September 26th of this year at the Bethany Lutheran Church of Ramey.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Wincher, seconded by Commissioner Blaine. Any further discussion? None, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Next on the agenda, I have an additional exempt permit resolution for the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association to hold a raffle on October 8th of this year at the Falls Ballroom.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Blaine. Any further discussion? None, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
And the last resolution I have is requesting approval for Shoot for the Troops to hold the raffle on September 14th of this year at the LeBlanc Rice Creek Game Farm.
Can I get a motion on that?
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Wincher. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Before we move into the motor vehicle report, I just wanted to give you an update that we have our annual audit exit meeting this afternoon with the state auditors. And then Deb and I have successfully worked together with moving the ARP access login. So that is switched over, and now I am working on the report for the end of the month.
It was close to an act of Congress, but we got her done.
Yes.
Good.
Next on the agenda, I have motor vehicle, and Denise is here with me.
Morning.
Morning, Denise.
Attached, we have some updates with the latest legislation session, and then revenue comparisons for both the county and the state revenue. So on our update, one thing that we talked about in the past meetings is the driver exam stations. So we were notified that there was a one-time appropriation of $2,598,000 for each fiscal year 22 and 23 to reopen all exam stations that were closed due to the pandemic. DPS and DVS is developing a preliminary plan to open all 93 exam stations throughout the state by January 31st of next year. Currently, 26 exam stations are open to serve Minnesotans, but the state also needs to complete the following tasks to accomplish their goal. So they need to renew leases and find new space to lease, hire and train enough staff to cover testing locations, and then hire additional 34 examiner positions, and also set up an appointment schedule at each location.
Mr. Chair, if I could just make sure, Tabitha usually works with the leases when it comes to that with the state as that conversation happens, and then just let maintenance and IT know, and making sure everything's ready for when that would happen, and I hope it's sooner than later.
We're
That's
hoping
good.
to get a letter soon, but we haven't
Yes.
gotten anything, so.
Yes, because we haven't worked with them on new square footage or anything, and so Tabitha will be able to work with John and get that all taken care of, so, good.
Next in our session, we had approved an independent expert review of Mndrive. So in legislation session, consultant Rick King was appointed to do a study on examining the increased workload for deputies and driver's license agents to reflect the appropriate compensation. So his first reports are due February 1st of next year and November 1st of next year. So I think with that study being done, we may see a change in revenue, possibly. That's the intent anyway.
Good deal.
Good.
Next, we have kiosks for tabs. So our Denise and I have partnered with Mndrive, and they have a lobbyist set, and they were pushing for kiosks for tabs. So having almost an ATM machine to do tab renewals. And so currently, self-service kiosks are approved and in pilot with 4 deputy offices to process vehicle registration renewals for only passenger vehicles and motorcycles. The convenience fee and filing fee charges are to be retained by the deputy registrars. We push very hard with our lobbyists to make that language in place. Pre-approval is needed, but is only for deputy registrars who choose to pursue this for their customers. DVS is currently working on getting RFPs in connection with vendors, but do not see this happening in 2021. The kiosk is to be provided at no cost to deputies, but will be responsible for IT and power connections for the kiosk. So once the RFPs are complete and there's vendors to supply the machine, Denise and I will be looking into having a kiosk for our office, and more to come.
Good.
Next, there's a pilot for same-day issuance of driver's license. So right now, they're establishing pilots with Lakeville and Moorhead. We know just a little bit about this, but as far as same-day issuance of driver's license, it's only going to be standard and IDs. Right now, they're not looking at real ID and enhanced. An increase of license plate fees. So legislation passed during the June special session increased plates for most types of license plates. So starting beginning of this month, all regular, disability, special, personalized replacements, and collector plate fees increased. A single plate is now $13.50, previously was $6, and a double plate now $15.50, previously $8, so an increase of $7.50 each. The increase amounts are directed to the state revenue. These increases are not retained at our office.
That's kind of a big increase, isn't it? That just about doubled.
Yep.
And that,
Follow up that too, Mr. Chair. I mean, this is not going to the deputy register, it's going to the budget of the state of Minnesota.
That's right.
Sad.
Seems as if the increases are easier to get if they go to the state. Odd, huh?
And harder to get money out of them.
Bingo.
Last on the update here, online driver's license and ID renewals and replacements. So the waiver allowing driver's license and ID card renewals or replacement without a new photo or vision test ended on June 30th of this year. So now only applicants for seasonal farm CDLs will be able to apply online. Everyone else will have to come into the office.
Mr. Chair. Chelsea, if you don't mind, let's go back to the license plates for just a second. Throw the figures out to me again. I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna get my vehicle renewed,
Yep.
or my tabs renewed.
Yep. So, vehicles typically are 2 plates, so that's a
Yep.
double plate fee, which is now $15.50 and was previously $8.
I don't understand $15.50. Every vehicle in the country is $15.50?
For a plate, yes.
Okay.
That's just the plate fee,
Okay.
that's not the registration fee.
Okay, so that $15.50, that's an increase, it was yesterday, it was what? Or let's just say.
$8.
Okay, it went from $8 for every plate that that's transaction you're gonna do here, went from $8 to $15.50. Wow, okay.
How often do you do
Just
plate?
needed to get, I'm sorry, I didn't have that
Every
straight.
new vehicle that comes into the state from out of state, a new vehicle being purchased, or if they need a duplicate plate because they've lost it or it was stolen, those are areas where that fee will get collected.
and that money doesn't
And
go to
every
the county.
No, and every 7-year plate replacement that happens on all passenger vehicles.
It is 7 years, that's what I was
It's every
getting at.
7
It's
years.
that when I'm like,
Yep,
every
so
so
that
often.
would be included in that fee too.
Okay,
So
very
it's
good.
huge.
Thank you, I didn't mean to sound like I wasn't paying attention, but I
No.
just, took me a second there, thank you.
Absolutely, yep.
Any other questions on the update? Next slide we have here, overall comparisons for the month ending in July. So the top portion, we have 2017 through 2021. We have our DNR, driver's license, and motor vehicle application. So this just kind of gives you an overview of our numbers. Now, keep in mind, when you're looking at 2020, obviously we were hit hard, but 2021, we still have 5 months in play from this report.
On that note, all the other ones are through the whole year, and the 2021 is just through July or
Yeah,
August?
Correct. Yep, end of July. Yep, so.
Kind of give you
so-
an idea.
Yep, just to look at where we're at, end of July.
I'm glad.
Yeah, and then, end of July, and then knowing we have an additional 5 more months. So, when you see those negative numbers, that's obviously scary. But knowing that we have 5 more months, we're gonna supersede that number.
Perfect, thank you.
So then we also have, below the DNR revenue, driver's license revenue, and motor vehicle revenue. This is our numbers for the county. So just to kind of give you a visual of where we're at. Some notes I kind of highlighted in the cream color. In July of 2017, there was a $450 renewal, duplicate, replace, and $7 transfer new filing fee, and also a $2 snowmobile transaction fee. And then in August of 2019, I don't know if you remember recalling this, but we got a $1 motor vehicle filing fee increase. From $6 to $7 and $10 to $11. So that was in legislation where we were lobbying, and we got a $1 increase. And that's in the green color. And then in the yellow, November 16 of 2020, we had additional filing fees for double transactions. Denise, do you want to maybe explain that a little bit?
Double transactions are like when we're transferring a Minnesota title and they need plates at the same time, but it's not up for a 7-year plate replacement. We're able to charge that additional fee for that. So it basically doubles that fee almost. And at times it does double the fee depending on the type of transaction we do.
Commissioner Blaine?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Chelsea, Denise, so when I'm looking at the revenue portion that's on the screen here now, the 3 lines there, the DNR, the driver's license, motor vehicle, that would encompass all the revenue that would come into motor vehicle department, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
So if I, doing just some quick math on this, on 2021, through 7 months, we're at just about 230,000, so it's it's about 70,000 or about $30,000 a month if you divide that by 7 months, a little over $30,000 a month, and so then if we figure those same numbers if we would look at probably that same revenue extended over the next 5 months here, that would be. Then we're talking another $150,000 of revenue there. So that difference on the bottom will change from a $50,000 deficit to actually we'll net in this department, in this county, about $100,000 due to the activity that comes into that department. Is that correct?
You're comparing to 2020. Correct.
Is that, so, okay,
So
so that difference that we're looking at on the bottom there, where you're saying difference would be compared to 2020 or
Yes.
compared to the year before?
So that amount is compared to the year before. However, if you look at a 5-month span and what we've brought in so far this year, I foresee our numbers surpassing our 2019's numbers.
Yeah, I would, yes, so I would say then we're just about $300,000 through 7 months. And if we are looking at that same rate, $150,000 would be a conservative estimate, but it's going to certainly be in the ballpark. So we're going to we should be comfortable finishing somewhere in that $450,000 range. And when we look at 2019 as probably being the highest that office has ever pulled for revenue,
Correct.
We'll exceed that by $40,000.
That is our best guess, yes.
Okay, very good, thank you.
So would that be more, is the top one here the transactions?
Yes.
Yes.
You know, how many more, because we do have a fee increase
Right.
from 19 to 20, so that would bring some money in difference. But the transactions are up.
And I suppose partially the reason the transactions are gonna be up this year is because last year, a lot of them were deferred. Is that correct?
Correct. We actually, Denise and I look at our transaction studies for the past years, and I believe we increase 500 transactions annually increase. So not looking at last year, but every single year we increase our workflow coming through the door by at least 500 applications.
Mr. Chair, it's good in 2021 to make up the difference of loss in 2020. I mean, it's nobody's fault, but yes, it's a good to see the numbers.
That's good.
And Mr. Chair, just to be frustrating again, we're gonna have more revenue. This is just for our county. How about the rest of the county? And yet they're raising the rates on our plate fee. It makes no sense to me what they're, and does it say what they're gonna use that money for? Who knows? So again, I'm just blowing steam here.
Mr. Chair, perhaps opening exam stations again, finally.
That they always had before.
Uh-huh.
Or charging stations for.
My
electric
editorials will stop now.
Just a little note, so in the black right under the notes, I have totals for DMV 2021 budget as of 7/31/2021. So this is off of our financial IFS system. So I just have broke down our revenues that we brought in for this year and then expenditures. And so we are at sitting a net of a positive $27,459.26 as of end of July. And then just for fun, Denise and I added the state revenue comparisons. So we have, the first block is motor vehicle revenue, and then the second block is the state driver's license revenue. So this is what our office does annually, brings in, and then pushes to the state. So it's always nice to see the comparison for what we hold within the county and then what goes directly to the state.
Good. Anybody have any questions? If not, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Denise.
Thank you. And then last but not least, request to
Thank you, Denise.
Denise.
approve the bills.
We need a motion to approve the bills.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to pay all of the bills.
Got a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. This is roll call. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
And aye.
Thank
Motion
you.
carries.
That is all I have today.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you.
See you, Chelsea.
Mike, I looked at Jeff and I called your name. That's for,
Aye.
You kind of look the same.
that's what I do.
Yep.
Okay,
We hear that all the
administrators.
time.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I was able to find one proposal that I've gotten back regarding re-rate process. So that's good and very similar. They actually work with a couple of counties that I learned also use the system that we're on and had previously worked with Dorothy. So I'm going to propose that that's what we do. We don't need to enter in any type of contract. They will be per use basis, similar to what Dorothy was. And so we have a solution for that and can move forward with that. Did you have a question, Commissioner Wincher?
Oh,
Okay,
he's making fun of me.
okay. All right, well, at least it's you. Yes, so we should be able to go forward with that. I've been working with Brad and Beth on other transition items when it comes to looking at the couple weeks winding down here for when I'm here. Gary did send the profile. I'll shoot that to you guys. He's coming in next Tuesday to talk about that and get your input on that from what I understand. And so I'll send that to you so you have the opportunity to review that ahead of time. But he'll be at the planning session. Is there anything else that you guys are looking to get from me or that you want me to concentrate on that may have been missed or that you're thinking of as it comes up? I have kind of an ongoing list of different issues that I'm touching base with Brad and Beth or appropriate parties. Brian with some of it, just letting everybody know where we're at. I'll shoot you any emails with that list, so you have that as we kind of continue to wind down the next couple weeks. Let me know if there's something that comes up that you want more information on. But that's it for me.
Well, you know, I just want to, this is your last board meeting that you're going to have. You'll be at the planning session next week, but I just want to thank you for all the years that you've given Morrison County and the shape that you've left Morrison County in. I think that we're in a good spot, and things are going well, so I want to congratulate you on your new position. I want to thank you for everything that you've done here. So thank you very much.
And Mr. Chair, if there was some kind of a motion I could make to second that one, or if that would have been a motion, I would have done the same thing. Thank you very much for everything.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have committee reports and upcoming schedules. I don't know if anybody has any committee reports, but upcoming schedule.
Dates are when?
August 29th through September 11th.
August 29th through the 11th. Commissioner Jelinski, would you mind doing that for us, please?
I'm ready. On the 30th, on Monday, the 30th at 6 PM, I have a Good Neighbors EMS meeting, and that's at St. Gabriel's Hospital, or at the clinic, I guess. On the 31st at 8:30 in the morning, there's a planning meeting, followed by 10 or 10:30, we should have a budget meeting. At 6 PM that evening, we should have a Planning Commission Board of Adjustment meeting. And the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment as the budget are in this facility right here. On September 1st at 8 o'clock in the morning, I plan on attending AMC's Coffee and Conversation remotely. That's at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'll be doing that from my house. On Thursday, the 2nd, 10 o'clock in the morning, I've got a legislative committee meeting. It's with the State Emergency Communications Board Legislative Committee. On Friday, the 3rd, otherwise known as Ms. Gruber's last day, at 8:30 in the morning, is TSWAC.
I'll be there. Mr. Bukowski's making me.
Labor Day, of course, is the 6th. On the 7th, at 9 o'clock in the morning, we have County Board here at the Morrison County Government Center. On the 8th, at 8:30 in the morning, there's a department head meeting. That's also here at the Government Center in the boardroom. I know that everybody wants to know that I get my permanent crown on the 9th of September.
Been worried.
That's my permanent one. I get my temporary one today. On the 10th of September at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board RAC meeting. I still believe that that is going to be virtual. If so, it'll be from my house. And Mr. Chair, that is all that I have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Blaine.
On September 9th at noon, there is a Rural Development Finance Authority meeting in the Bell Prairie Room upstairs. Other than that, I think I'm good.
Okay, thank you. I have on September 2nd, CMCOA meeting at 10 o'clock, virtual. And I think I'm covered with everything else. Commissioner Lemire?
On the 30th, HRA, 9 o'clock. On the September 1st, the Fall Cattlemen's Tour at 6 o'clock at the farm of Clint Catherine. We got T-Schwack. And I think you got everything. How about the appreciation for Deb on the 2nd? What time is that?
That's right.
Is that a national holiday or just
I missed
state
it.
local?
Yeah, it is a national holiday.
Uh-huh.
And that's it,
At 1, isn't
I
it?
missed that. I'm sorry. That's at 1:30 is what I have.
1:30.
Thank you for your guys' participation in that.
In person at HRA.
You done, Mike?
I'm done, yep.
Okay, Commissioner Wincher.
The only thing else I have is on September 1st, I'll be down at the University of Minnesota Extension Building at 4 o'clock. That's in person.
Jeff, I'm sure you did it, but on department head meeting, did you do that one on the 8th? Okay, I wasn't paying attention completely, so, okay.
I did do department head meeting.
Thank you. All right, anybody else got anything? Otherwise, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by Commissioner Jelinski. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. I've got to
Good job, Mr. Chair.
add, I got to add one.